Hi, this video is to show you how to use Power Query to transpose data that is collected from database. Most time when data scientists collect data from database, it looks similar to this format where you have the first name on the first row and then the first year on the first column. To make any meaningful analysis from here, you want the firm's years and the firm's name on the first two columns, followed by variables. Now, this data is from data stream. I'm still working on this data, so I have rather copy this data to a different spreadsheet where I will conduct this workshop. So the same data I show you from the data stream is what we got here. We can't perform any reasonable analysis from this data without transposing this data to have the years on this column and the firms on this column and then the variables on this column. There are several variables here, but that can be later sorted once we get the years and the first name in this column. To use the Power Query, you go to the data and then you go to the from table or range. When you simply go and use the function that is already on the Power Query in a data format similar to this, it's probably not going to work correctly. If you use the transform here and then use the transpose here, you are going to get inaccurate transpose of this data. The best way to do it is simply to come here and right click on this first column. You've got three options. One option is on pivot column, or pivot other columns, and on pivot selected columns. So I did not select these other columns. Therefore, I want to retain the year column because it's on it's on an expected format. What I want to do, I want to transpose these other columns and the first names. So I rather say on pivot other columns. So when I do that, I'll have data similar to this format. Now, I could double check that my data is accurate by looking at the value of this data and comparing this with the data source. For example, if we look at Fisher current ratio in 1980, it's 1.78. And then if we look at the data source, Fisher in 1980 is 1.78. I could take a sample of 5 just to be sure that everything is accurate. Let's look at 1981. I'm not going as much as 5, but I could look at one more example on how to double check your data is accurate. So in this case, I will search for 1981. I compare the same firm, which is Fisher. In 1981, the current ratio is 1.67. And from the original data source is 1.67 in 1918, and this is Fisher. So in this case, my data has transposed accurately. The next thing I have to do is to close this Power Query, and there are two functions that is going to show you here. One is close and load, and the other one is close and load the Power Query to a specified a sheet or a different Power Query windows and so on. But in my case, I just simply want this to be close and load to the same spreadsheet that I was using earlier. I'll click on close and load, and it's going to be somewhere here shortly. Here it is. Now I can do the cleanings that I need to do, and then I run my analysis based on this data. You can see the values are here, and I'm going to clean up all this missing value later. And then I could also use simple shift and filter and get different variables out of this particular data. So this is how you use the Power Query to transpose your data to get it in this format. And then you can now clean up the data once it's in this format and arrange them by variables. If you think that this video is useful to you, please like my video, and I'm going to be producing more in the future as I come across complex issues.